Ladies and gentlemen, there exists within every man and woman a fortress, an invisible, impenetrable bastion. It cannot be breached by failure, it cannot be shaken by criticism, and it bows to no enemy known to man. This fortress is your mind, and today I'm going to show you how to make it untouchable. Not by hiding from the world, no, but by conquering it from within. You see, adversity is not your enemy. It is your instructor. Every man who has risen to greatness has done so not in spite of hardship, but because of it. You must stop waiting for the storm to pass. Instead, become the one who walks through lightning and thunder with purpose in his eyes and faith in his stride. The mentally untouchable individual does not flinch when the world growls. Why? Because he has mastered three invisible assets: definitiveness of purpose, control of thought, and emotional discipline. Now let me give you the first: definiteness of purpose. The man who knows why he wakes up each morning will never be conquered by the trivial misfortunes of the day. Have a goal so clear, so compelling, so blazing with intensity that every obstacle is merely a pebble in your path. Purpose gives you direction, and direction is power. Second, you must seize control over your own thoughts. Guard the gateway to your mind as if it were the vault of a king. Every idea that enters your head shapes your destiny. If you allow doubt, fear, and failure to rent space in your mind, don't be surprised when they try to own it. The world can call you a failure, but it cannot make you one, unless you agree. And finally, emotional discipline. Listen closely now. The truly powerful man is not the one who shouts loudest or strikes hardest. It is the one who can feel anger and choose not to act on it, who can face betrayal and respond with grace, who can taste defeat and still say, "I am not done." No man is free until he has mastered his emotions, because until then he is a puppet, pulled by the strings of every insult, every setback, every storm that crosses his path. Let me leave you with this. You do not need to be born wealthy to be rich in strength. You do not need perfect circumstances to forge an unshakable character. You need only the will to decide that no one, no voice, no failure, no hardship has power over your peace of mind. Decide today to become mentally untouchable. For once your mind is unshakable, your future is unstoppable. Thank you. Definitiveness of purpose is the starting point of all mental resilience and personal power. It is the engine that drives all achievement and the compass that provides direction in the storms of uncertainty. Without a clear and unwavering purpose, the mind becomes like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by every wave of distraction, fear, and doubt. But when an individual identifies and commits to a definite goal, something remarkable happens. The mind aligns its faculties, the emotions fall into formation, and the body becomes a willing servant of the will. In that alignment, mental strength is born. There is a power that emerges when a person decides once and for all what they want from life. This is not wishful thinking, nor is it vague ambition. It is not the soft "I hope" or the casual "someday." Definiteness of purpose is a fiery declaration of intent. It is carved into the consciousness with such force that it reshapes identity itself. A man or woman with a definite purpose speaks differently, walks differently, and thinks differently. Their mind begins filtering every experience through the lens of that purpose, accepting only that which serves the goal and discarding all else as noise. This kind of clarity eliminates hesitation. It cuts through indecision like a blade and removes the fog of uncertainty that paralyzes so many. When a person knows exactly what they are after, they do not waste time wondering whether they are on the right path. They make the path. They do not wait for motivation, because purpose itself becomes the source of all momentum. They no longer fear failure, because even a setback is measured not by the sting of the moment, but by its relevance to the greater aim. Definiteness of purpose also grants immunity to distraction. In a world that pulls from every direction, notifications, opinions, criticisms, trends, the individual with a strong purpose remains cantered. They are not easily swayed by the latest fear or the loudest voice. They know where they are going, and because of that, they know what does not matter. This selectivity is a secret weapon. It allows for deeper focus, greater productivity, and a peace of mind that is unavailable to the drifting and the doubtful. Mental toughness is not a natural trait. It is cultivated through decisions made in alignment with purpose. Each time an individual chooses the goal over the comfort, the mission over the mood, the long-term vision over the short-term gratification, they forge a mind that becomes more disciplined, more stable, and more unshakable. That is how one becomes mentally untouchable, not through brute strength, but through unyielding clarity of intention. Even fear loses its grip in the face of a definite purpose. Why? Because fear thrives in the unknown. But when a person defines what they want, where they are going, and why it matters, the unknown becomes a mat. It may still contain challenges, but it no longer carries the same terror. A clear goal transforms fear from a wall into a hurdle, and hurdles can be jumped. Purpose does not remove pain, but it gives pain meaning. It does not prevent failure, but it extracts wisdom from it. It does not silence criticism, but it renders it irrelevant. A person with purpose does not seek comfort, they seek growth. And in that pursuit, they develop a mind that no insult can weaken, no obstacle can intimidate, and no loss can break. The mind is a gate, and every thought is a guest. To become mentally untouchable, one must take full command of that gate and decide with intention what thoughts are allowed entry. Most people do not guard their minds. They leave the door wide open, allowing fear, doubt, worry, and negativity to walk in freely, take a seat, and stay as long as they like. They confuse thoughts with truth, forgetting that not every idea deserves to be believed, but the individual who learns to control what enters the mind holds the key to personal power, emotional freedom, and unshakable resilience. Thoughts are not harmless. Each one carries energy, and over time that energy builds habits. Habits shape actions, and actions create outcomes. A man who repeatedly allows thoughts of failure to linger will begin to act in ways that bring failure into form. A woman who constantly entertains ideas of unworthiness will eventually live in alignment with that belief. The mind is a fertile field. Whatever is planted there, whether weeds or wheat, will grow. And so the first discipline of a mentally untouchable person is to choose what seeds are sown. This requires vigilance. It is not enough to occasionally think positively or to read an inspiring quote in the morning. Mental strength comes from moment-to-moment awareness. It is the ability to catch a thought as it arises and ask, does this serve my vision? Does this strengthen or weaken me? If the answer is no, the thought must be replaced. This is not repression. It is selection. Just as one would not let a thief into their home, the mind must not entertain thoughts that steal peace, confidence, or clarity. Most people do not fail because of their circumstances. They fail because of the narrative they have allowed to take root in their minds. I'm not good enough. It's too late. Nothing ever works out for me. These phrases, repeated silently day after day, form chains that bind the spirit. But when a person begins to question these thoughts, when they learn that thoughts can be chosen and trained, the chains begin to fall. The mind is not a fixed instrument. It is malleable, and its default settings can be rewritten by conscious effort. Guarding the mind also means limiting exposure to sources that feed it the wrong content. The conversations we entertain, the media we consume, the environments we spend time in, all of these are inputs. They shape the mental climate we live in. Just as a gardener would not pour poison on growing plants, the individual pursuing mental strength must be careful not to expose the mind to constant toxicity. It is better to walk alone in truth than to sit in circles of noise and negativity. Controlling thought does not mean pretending that everything is perfect. It means choosing a frame that empowers rather than weakens. A challenge can be seen as a punishment or a lesson. A delay can be viewed as a denial or a test of patience. The same event can carry 1,000 meanings. The mentally strong person chooses the one that keeps them moving forward. They do not deny reality, but they refuse to interpret it in a way that strips them of power. There is no thought more important than the ones we repeat to ourselves. Self-talk is the script by which we live. A person who constantly tells themselves, "I can't," "I won't," or "I'll never," will act as if those statements are laws. But these are not laws, they are lies. Until they are believed, and once believed, they become self-fulfilling. The individual who recognizes this begins to replace disempowering thoughts with those rooted in strength, possibility, and intent. They begin to speak internally in a language of faith and action, not fear and retreat. Adversity is not the enemy most people believe it to be. In fact, it is one of the most faithful companions of greatness. Every person who has risen to any notable height in life has walked hand in hand with adversity. It does not arrive to destroy, but to refine. It does not come to stop you, but to ask a question. How much do you want it? And in answering that question through action, struggle, and perseverance, you are not weakened, you are forged. Most individuals spend their lives avoiding discomfort, resisting difficulty, and wishing for ease. They believe that the mentally untouchable person is one who never suffers, never doubts, never encounters hardship. But the opposite is true. The mentally untouchable are not untouched by adversity. They are transformed by it. They use it as a tool, not a curse. They take the blows and convert them into strength. They see pain as a form of education. This mindset separates those who break from those who bend and rise stronger. Adversity has a way of exposing what lies beneath the surface. When the pressure increases, when circumstances close in, a person's true character is revealed. And for the one who welcomes adversity as a teacher rather than a tormentor, this revelation becomes a gift. They begin to see where they need to grow, what beliefs must be shed, what fears must be faced. They become students of their own setback. Every failure, every rejection, every detour becomes part of the curriculum. This perspective shifts the entire experience of hardship. Where others see defeat, the mentally untouchable see direction. Where others feel broken, they feel broken open. Adversity clarifies. It strips away what is non-essential and brings focus to what truly matters. It forces the individual to dig deeper, to tap into reserves of courage and will that would otherwise remain dormant. It activates strength that comfort could never awaken. One of the most important realizations a person can have is that difficulty is not personal. Life does not single out individuals for suffering. It simply moves according to seasons, cycles, and laws. What matters is not whether challenges will come, they will, but how one chooses to meet them. The mentally resilient individual meets them with preparation, with a plan, and with the unshakable belief that every challenge holds the seed of equal or greater opportunity. They do not wait for easy roads. They learn to travel the hard ones with steady steps. There is also a hidden power in having faced and survived adversity. It becomes a form of inner proof. Once a person has endured something they thought they could not survive, fear loses its authority. They begin to understand that they are stronger than they imagine. This understanding does not come from theory or encouragement. It comes from experience. It is earned through nights of doubt, moments of isolation, and days when quitting seemed easier than continuing. But by not quitting, by enduring, the individual earns a kind of quiet power that cannot be taken away. Adversity is also a tool of humility. It reminds even the strongest that they are not above the struggle, but rather than shrink from this truth, the mentally untouchable embrace it. They find dignity in effort. They take pride not just in success, but in the process, the grind, the setbacks, the long road. Because they understand that resilience is built not in comfort, but in persistence. To become mentally untouchable, one must redefine what adversity means. It is not a signal to stop. It is not a reason to retreat. It is an invitation. to become more, to rise higher, to prove to yourself that no matter how hard the wind blows, you will not be moved from your path. Emotional discipline is the silent strength behind every mentally untouchable individual. It is not about suppressing emotions or pretending to be unaffected. It is about mastering the inner world so completely that no external event can dictate your response. Emotions are powerful forces. They can fuel greatness or they can destroy potential. The difference lies in whether you control them or they control you. Most people are reactive. They feel an emotion and they act on it immediately. Anger rises and they lash out. Fear appears and they shrink. Jealousy whispers and they sabotage. This pattern becomes automatic, and over time, their life is no longer directed by vision or values, but by moods and emotional impulses. The mentally disciplined person breaks that pattern. They create space between stimulus and response. In that space they choose. That choice is where freedom lives. To be emotionally disciplined means to recognize emotion without being ruled by it. Anger may come, but it does not dictate behavior. Fear may knock, but it does not become the guide. Sadness may visit, but it does not cloud judgment. This is not detachment from life. It is engagement from a place of strength. The emotionally disciplined person feels everything, but acts only on what aligns with their purpose and principles. This level of control does not come naturally. It must be trained. Just as the body becomes stronger through repeated resistance, the emotional system becomes steadier through intentional effort. When a person chooses calm in the face of provocation, patience in the face of delay, or clarity in the face of chaos, they are strengthening emotional discipline. These moments may seem small, but they compound into a mind that is no longer easily shaken. One of the keys to emotional discipline is awareness. You cannot master what you do not understand. The mentally untouchable individual pays close attention to their internal landscape. They notice the rise of frustration, the shift in tone, the racing heartbeat. They observe without judgment. This observation creates a buffer. Instead of being consumed by emotion, they witness it. From that space, they can redirect it. Now the key is understanding the cost of emotional impulsiveness. When you speak out of anger, when you make decisions out of fear, when you react out of envy, you are handing over your power to a temporary state. The consequences, however, often linger long after the feeling has passed. Emotional discipline protects your future. It ensures that what you build with effort is not destroyed by a single moment of uncontrolled reaction. Discipline also allows emotions to serve rather than sabotage. Emotions carry energy. That energy can be redirected. Anger can become fuel for action. Fear can become a signal to prepare. Sadness can become a deeper connection to humanity. The emotionally disciplined individual does not waste emotional energy. They refine it. They channel it into something useful. They make emotions their allies, not their masters. In high-stress moments, emotional discipline becomes the anchor. When others panic, the disciplined mind stays focused. When the environment is chaotic, the disciplined individual becomes a source of stability. This makes them not only powerful within themselves, but powerful in the lives of others. People follow those who can remain steady when everything else is falling apart. Emotional control becomes a form of leadership. Lastly, emotional discipline strengthens resilience. Life will always bring challenge, disappointment, and conflict. But the one who is not a slave to every emotional wave can navigate these experiences without losing direction. They do not crumble under pressure because they do not identify with temporary feelings. They hold on to vision, values, and decisions made from clarity, not chaos. Refusing to be defined by external opinions or events is one of the core traits of mental invincibility. The world is quick to label, quick to judge, and quicker still to misunderstand. People will project their fears onto you, their limitations, their expectations. They will tell you what you can and cannot do, what you should or should not be, and how far you are allowed to go. If you let these voices in, if you allow them to shape your self-pigeon, then your identity becomes a reflection of the world's doubts instead of your own truth. The mentally untouchable individual draws a clear line between perception and reality. They understand that just because someone says something doesn't make it true. Just because a door is closed doesn't mean it is locked. They do not look outward for validation because they have built certainty from the inside. Their opinion of themselves holds more weight than the opinions of the crowd. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is the recognition that no one lives in your skin, carries your dreams, or walks your path but you. The danger of external definition is that it makes your worth conditional. If people approve, you feel valuable. If they disapprove, you question yourself. If you succeed, you feel worthy. If you fail, you feel ashamed. This seesaw robs a person of peace. The mentally strong person steps off that seesaw. They anchor their worth in something deeper, their character, their vision, their relentless commitment to growth. They know who they are, and because of that, no one else's definition can stick. Events, too, carry the temptation to define you. A failure happens, and it tries to call you a failure. A loss occurs, and it whispers that you're not enough. A moment of weakness shows up, and it claims to be your identity. But these are moments, not definitions. The mentally untouchable separate what they experience from who they are. They allow failure to be feedback, not a verdict. They allow pain to be a chapter, not the title of the book. They know that identity is something you claim, not something that happens to you. Refusing external definition also means taking full responsibility for your inner narrative. You do not get to blame others for your self-position once you realize it's your voice that has the final say. You can listen to 1,000 opinions, but at the end of the day, the one that echoes in your mind is the one that shapes you. This is why mentally disciplined people speak to themselves with intention. They're not waiting for praise from others. They are giving themselves the truth they need to hear. There is great freedom in not being controlled by circumstances. When life goes wrong, when plans fall apart, when expectations aren't met, the average person lets those moments redefine them. But the mentally unshakable individual sees these events as part of the process, not a reflection of personal value. They know that setbacks are necessary. They don't internalize them. They extract the lesson and move forward with dignity intact. This mindset creates consistency. You are the same whether people support you or criticize you, whether you're celebrated or overlooked, whether you win or lose. Because your identity isn't built on shifting sand. It's built on the solid ground of intention, effort, and internal clarity. The world can throw praise or shade, but it does not penetrate the walls of self-definition you've built with purpose. When you no longer look to others to decide who you are, you become powerful. Not loud, not aggressive, simply rooted. You walk into rooms without needing to prove anything. You face challenges without questioning your worth. You hear criticism without losing your center. You become unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you have chosen not to hand over the pen that writes your story. Inner mastery creates outer invincibility. The state of the external world will always be uncertain. Economies fluctuate, people change, relationships evolve, circumstances shift without warning. But the one who has cultivated dominion over their inner world walks through that uncertainty untouched. They are not immune to difficulty, but they are immune to defeat. The storms may rage, but they remain rooted. The surface may tremble, but the foundation holds steady. This is the result of inner mastery, the quiet power that no one can see, but everyone can feel. Most people live outward in. They are shaped by what happens around them. When things go well, they feel good. When things go wrong, they collapse. Their sense of peace is dictated by external validation, outcomes, or control over circumstances. But the mentally untouchable live inward out. Their emotional state is not a reaction, it is a decision. Their confidence is not based on conditions, it is rooted in character. This inversion is not common, but it is the mark of those who lead themselves before leading anything else. Inner mastery begins with awareness. You cannot master what you do not know. The mentally strong individual knows their triggers, their patterns, their shadows. They are not afraid to confront themselves. They do not run from discomfort because they understand that growth lives in the places most people avoid. They study their own thinking, observe their emotional ways, and discipline their responses with intention. This kind of self-honesty is rare, but it is essential. You cannot conquer the world if you have not first conquered yourself. Discipline is a cornerstone of inner mastery. Not just the discipline to wake up early or follow routines, but the discipline to think on purpose, to direct attention where it matters, to say no when everything in you craves a yes for comfort, to delay gratification in favor of a long-term reward. This kind of internal command builds a kind of strength that no external advantage can match. It teaches the mind to obey purpose, not preference. Clarity also plays a critical role. When a person knows who they are and what they are here to do, distractions lose their power. Opinions lose their weight. Temptations lose their appeal. Inner mastery brings with it a kind of spiritual minimalism. Everything unnecessary gets stripped away. Only what serves the mission remains. This simplicity is not weakness. It is a weapon. It allows for focus, for momentum, for unbreakable consistency. Another layer of inner mastery is emotional independence. This is the ability to carry peace in the midst of chaos, to hold vision even in the face of delay, to maintain joy that isn't dependent on outcomes. Most people think happiness must be earned, achieved, or granted. The mentally untouchable understand that it can be cultivated regardless of what the world is doing. They do not outsource their well-being. They generate it from within. Inner mastery also brings with it a deep stillness. Not the absence of activity, but the presence of alignment. A person who has mastered themselves does not live in constant reaction. They move with purpose, speak with intention, and act with restraint. Their calm is not weakness, it is the product of inner alignment. They are not easily provoked because nothing within them is out of order. This kind of presence is magnetic. It draws others, commands respect, and creates influence without effort. When you become a master of your inner world, you stop chasing control over the outer world. You realize that true power is not found in manipulating circumstances, but in meeting them with steadiness. You learn to thrive in unpredictability because your anchor is not outside you, it is within. You become free, not because the world bends to your will, but because your will no longer bends to the world.